Good evening, sir. Tell me your full name.
Edgar Thomas Osowampo.
All right, let's see. Is there a public defender out at the jail?
Not just yet, man.
Okay,
Your Honor.
so we're just gonna have to wait just a few minutes until we can get a public defender there, all right, sir?
Okay. What is this about?
You have a warrant out of New Mexico.
Oh, okay.
And good evening, Your Honor. This is Spanish Court Interpreter Aida Fernandez, and
Your mic is breaking up really bad, but I think I caught Spanish interpreter, and I do not believe we have any Spanish speakers. Jail, can you just confirm for me?
Yes, Your Honor. We have no. Everyone speaks English.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Madam Interpreter. Have a great evening.
thank you very much, Your Honor.
Hi, who do we have from the Public Defender's Office?
Mr. Kelly.
Esther Kelly.
But I've been incarcerated this whole time.
All right, sir.
Okay.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. This is the time for your initial appearance. It's actually on a warrant out of the state of New Mexico. Looks like it is a failure to comply with conditions of probation warrant. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. So the request from out of state is to have you held without bond, and that's what's going to happen here today. You are going to be held out without bond, and we're going to set a hearing for you on this matter. It'll be a fugitive matter. That's going to take place on September 19th at 2:30 in the afternoon. I am going to appoint the Legal Defender's Office to represent you. So the Legal Defender's Office from here in Pima County will be out to talk with you before that hearing on the 19th, and they'll discuss with you what this fugitive warrant means and what your options are at that time. So September 19th at 2:30, you'll remain in custody until then, and the jail will make sure to transport you to Superior Court for that hearing. And again, sir, you should hear from someone from the Legal Defender's Office this week.
Okay.
Okay? That's all for tonight.
That's it.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, go sit right here. Sarcia, arms at the shirt, please.
Good evening, ma'am. Tell me your full name.
Amanda Liz Garcia.
Ms. Garcia, this is the time for your initial appearance on a charge out of Tucson City Court. It is drug paraphernalia. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You also have a federal hold, ma'am. So regardless of what I do on this paraphernalia charge this evening, you're going to be held in custody until the federal hold gets lifted or something happens with that. All right?
Mhm.
What we're going to do tonight, ma'am, is I am going to release you on your city charges, but again, you're not going to be released because of your federal hold. I am going to appoint the Grinkowich Law Office to represent you. There are 2 lawyers in that office. One of them will be in contact with you soon. Your next hearing date is going to be a non-transport review hearing. It'll be October 18th at 2:00 in the afternoon. If you find
Sure.
yourself out of custody, you do need to appear at that date and time. If you are still in custody, your lawyers will let you know how that hearing is going to be handled. If you do fail to appear on October 18th at 2:00 at Tucson City Court in front of Judge Mayhew, she could issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand, Ms. Garcia?
Yeah.
All right, that's all for tonight.
Cubana. Oscar, right? What's up? Oscar? Yeah.
Hi, sir. Tell me your full name.
Oscar Guevara.
Mr. Guevara, you are here tonight on some drug paraphernalia charges out of Tucson City Court. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I note, Mr. Guevara, that you have a hearing on a motion to quash the warrant that you got picked up on tonight, Monday morning, the 16th at 9 a.m. Were you planning on going to city court at that date and time?
Yeah, for one of the warrants I got picked up, I had went the next day and put a new court date, but the lady said that the warrant was still gonna stay. I was gonna go to my new court date, well, and then the other one, I really didn't know about the other one because I never miss my course. I always go. I didn't know about the other one, but the other one I had already rescheduled it.
Okay, so I can keep the court date on Monday, the 16th at 9 a.m., and you can go resolve both of your Tucson City Court cases at that time. So I'm going to release you tonight on these charges. The warrant will show as quashed, but you need to go to court on Monday morning at 9:00. Are you going to be able to? Because I can set a court date out, sir, in October, but that's going to be a long time for you to wait to get these matters resolved. So
Yeah, nah,
City Court
that's
already has that date set on Monday, the 16th at 9. So if you promise that you're going to show up Monday morning at 9:00, you can get these 2 city court matters dealt with at that time.
yeah,
Yeah? Okay.
yeah, I'll be there.
So I'm going to show that you are released on your promise to appear for your court date. So you'll be released on these charges tonight. Your next hearing is going to be September 16th at 9 a.m. and that's going to be in front of Judge Sergio at Tucson City Court. All right? If you
All right.
don't show up at that date and time, sir, they are going to issue another warrant for your arrest and you'll be back in the same situation you're in right now. All right? So make sure you show up for that hearing.
Okay.
All right, that's all for tonight.
Lawson. Put down on the right there.
Hi, sir. Tell me your full name.
Richard Long, lost.
All right, Mr. Lawson, you are here tonight on a city court charge. Looks like a warrant involving graffiti. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. It looks like you also have a DOC hold. Did I get that right, Jail? Is that what you show?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor.
Right. So, sir, because you have that DOC hold, regardless of what I do on this case tonight, you're not going to be released until you get that matter resolved. Do you understand that? All right. So what I'm going to do with your city court cases is release you for this city court charge. I am going to appoint Janet Altschuler to represent you because you will be in custody. She will be in contact with you. I'm going to set a future hearing. It'll be October 15th at 2 o'clock in the afternoon at Tucson City Court for you to resolve this case. If you're still in custody because of your DOC matter, or you're still at the jail for whatever reason, Ms. Altschuler will let you know how to handle that. But if you get released, you are going to need to appear at that date and time. If you fail to appear, a warrant could be issued for your arrest. If you do get released on the city court matter, sir, you're not to return to the incident location or have contact with the victims there, wherever the graffiti occurred. Do you understand that? I didn't hear you, sir. I need to hear an out loud answer. Do you understand those conditions? Sorry, I just didn't hear you. That's all for tonight, Mr. Lawson.
Yeah. Great. What's here?
Hi, ma'am. Tell me your full name.
Patricia Louise Reese.
Ms. Reese, you are here tonight on charges of DV assault, DV aggravated assault, and DV disorderly conduct. These are all charges out of Tucson City Court at this time. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Ma'am, part of my orders tonight, I'm inclined to release you, but part of my orders are that you not have any contact with your minor children who are the victims in this case. Do you have a place that you can reside that is not with them? I note that there is a lawful representative of Ms. Reyes who does have custody of the kids. So do you have another location you can reside, or are you going to be able to set something up that is living from them?
That who has, I didn't understand that custody.
So it looks like I have, so maybe not custody. The lawful representatives for the minor children is a person by the name of Elvira Reyes. At least that's what the pretrial services.
Okay, yeah,
represented.
so with that one, I would have a problem with that one because my mom's mentally unstable to be around my kids. I do have other family members to safely care for my kids.
Okay, so I'm not appointing that person, ma'am. I'm just telling you that's who I was told. My question to you is, do you have somewhere else that you can reside that is?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I need
I
to
do.
do for tonight. Perfect. So I am going to release you on your promise to appear. So you are going to be released later tonight. Your additional conditions of release: do not commit any further acts of domestic violence. And at this time, you're not allowed to have any contact with your two minor children. Do not go back to their residence, wherever it is that they're staying. Do you understand those conditions?
So can I get, why you keep looking at me, girl? That's an issue.
Ma'am.
No, she's dogging me. Can you move out of this place, please? There's a lot of like workers here that are unprofessional. I'm sorry. I just don't like to be dogged at if I'm not looking at somebody, you know what I mean?
So, Ms.
Thank
Reed,
you.
I need you to
Yeah.
just stay focused on me so we can get through this hearing. Do you need to return to that house? You had a question for me. Just keep looking at me, okay? You
Well, can you-
started, okay, I need you to just
Can you
focus
just tell
on
her to
me.
move in?
Just
She has
focus.
to be, needs to be 2 officers.
Okay, well, let me move over here because. My God, okay. Yeah, so I don't have to return. I'll buy my own clothes.
I can give you a return with law enforcement so you can get your
No.
things.
I don't have to do all that. I'm not gonna.
Okay, all right. So you understand the additional conditions until something else happens to change those, right?
That is correct.
So your next hearing in this case is going to be October 17th at 9 a.m. at Tucson City Court in front of Judge Verena. When you get released later tonight, you'll get a copy of your release conditions that outline what it is that I've just told you, and it will have your court date and the Tucson City Court address so you know when to appear. If you do fail to appear at that hearing, they could issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences for failing to appear?
Yes, I do. So there was restraining orders that were put on me from my kids.
I am telling you, as a result of these charges, you are not allowed
Okay.
to have contact with the minor.
So conditions. Okay, I understand.
And again, that's until the next court hearing or until something else changes.
Yes, ma'am.
And so when you get this piece of paper, it's going to show that the lawful representative for the minor children is Ms. Reyes. And again, that's information that the court was provided by pretrial services. So I don't know how that happened. You're not restricted in having contact with that person or whoever you think needs to have contact with your children. You just can't have contact with them right now.
That's fine.
Okay. All right. That's all for this evening, ma'am.
Thank you.
Hi, sir. Tell me your full name.
Davis Lee Kroll.
Mr. Kroll, you are here this evening for an initial appearance on a charge of first-degree murder. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you do have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here this evening. I've had an opportunity to review information provided to me by pretrial services. I've also had a chance to review the state's recommendation as to the conditions of your release. The state is recommending a $1 million bond. Ms. Goodman, did you want to be heard further?
Yes, Your Honor, I respectfully ask the court to impose the $1 million bond based on the nature of the offense. The defendant does have prior violent offenses. In addition, he is facing mandatory prison. He has 2 prior convictions. He did decline to participate during the assessment with pretrial services. He lacks community ties. Both priors are from out of state. He's a risk to the community, Your Honor. Higher the bond is appropriate.
Ms. Kelly, would you like to be heard?
Yes, Your Honor. First, I'd like to address probable cause, and if the court finds probable cause, then address release conditions. I'd ask that the court carefully review the interim complaint in this case. I understand that probable cause is a low standard, but probable cause is reason to believe that a crime was committed and that the defendant committed it. And here, when you look at the interim complaint, an individual is found unresponsive in a pool, and there's nothing indicating that he was beat up or strangled. This could be a drowning. And then in terms of any evidence that the defendant committed the act, the allegations are essentially that he was wet and may have recently been in the pool, and that also he may generally have a substance abuse issue. Having a drug abuse problem doesn't make you a murderer. There has to be some evidence that he killed the person who drowned. We also know that there were other individuals present from the interim complaint who could be possible suspects. This is first-degree premeditated murder, and we have a factually insufficient interim complaint. As all the attorneys know, if the court declines to find probable cause today, the state, if they have more evidence, can still go to a grand jury and get an indictment. But based on the lack of probable cause today, I'd ask the court to dismiss the complaint.
And I do find that there is probable cause. In this case, there does appear to have been a witness that sees Mr. Kroll actually at the home come out wet. The victim was fine before and then not after Mr. Kroll was in the area. It also looks like it was, there were injuries noted to Mr. Kroll, abrasions on knees, scratches on his chest and back were also noted. He did come out wet and then fled the scene where the victim was later located. So I understand your arguments, but as you noted, probable cause is a low standard. And I think based on the circumstances provided in the interim, I do think that that applies. So did you want to be heard on conditions of release?
Yes, Your Honor. He does have ties to the community. His sister, his nieces, and his father lives here, and he visits often. He has multiple family members that he could live within the community. He is connected currently with treatment at COPE, so he has services, and he's also currently employed. I'd ask the court to set the bond at $20,000.
So I am going to impose a bond of $250,000 at this time. It is going to be cash or secured. If that bond is able to be posted, sir, you will be released to the custody of pretrial services and you'll be responsible for reporting to that agency. You'll need to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You're not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or drugs. You can't have any firearms or weapons. Do not go back to the incident location and do not have any contact with the victim's family members in this case. Do you understand all of those conditions?
Yes.
Your next hearing is going to be September 24th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That is going to be a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you will be responsible for all future court dates. It's important that you stay in contact with your attorney if you do get released from custody so that you can stay on top of your court dates. If you fail to appear, a warrant could be issued for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences if you do fail to appear?
Yes.
All right, that's all for tonight.
Your Honor, was the public defender appointed? You might have said it, but I didn't.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hi, sir. Tell me your full name. I think you guys are muted. Miss Kelly, are you muted? There we go.
Go ahead.
James Thomas Reyes Aguilar.
Mr. Aguilar, you are here this evening on multiple matters. The first are felony charges involving drug paraphernalia and possession of illegal drugs. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter, and I am going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you. You do have counsel seated with you for purposes of this hearing tonight. I have had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. I've also had a chance to review recommendations by the state as to your conditions of release. Mr. Aguilar, I will tell you that in addition to your felony charges, you have 14 outstanding cases at Tucson City Court that you have failed to appear on. So I will give all the parties a heads up. Based on that, I am inclined to hold Mr. Aguilar or at least impose a bond on those matters. Mr. Aguilar, you are eligible based on the nature of these charges to participate in something called Substance Abuse Treatment Court through Pima County Superior Court. If you are interested in participating in either inpatient or outpatient treatment for these felony drug charges, and you successfully complete the requirements of the program, the state will agree not to go forward with these felony charges against you. Does that sound like a program you would like to participate in?
Yeah,
Okay. So with that, counsel, I will tell you both my inclination is to impose a $1,500 cash or secured bond released to pretrial services. I would ask to waive time for the preliminary hearing, Ms. Kelly, just out to October 4th.
Yes.
All right. Does anyone want to be heard further as to conditions of release on the felony case?
Nothing further from the state, Your Honor. Thank you.
Your Honor, he's lived in Tucson for 6 years and has ties to the community. He has one prior felony conviction, but it's from 2015. This is also a personal use offense. So I would ask that the court set the bond at $500.
I do have some concerns about failure to appear given the 14 outstanding cases at Tucson City Court. I think that track record causes the court some concerns. And Mr. Aguilar, you will be able to participate in treatment at the jail, so you'll be in contact with pretrial services. And through the SMART program, there are a bunch of agencies within our community that will be able to assist you. Your next hearing is going to be on September 23rd at 9 a.m. That's going to be in front of me. I'm Judge Miller in Pima County Superior Court. If you don't post the $1,500 bond, then I will see you on that morning and we can talk about reviewing your conditions of release depending upon your eligibility for the SMART program. So that is your next court hearing in this matter. The next hearing on your felony cases thereafter is going to be October 4th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That hearing is a preliminary hearing and that may or may not go forward. So it's important that you stay in contact with your attorney because you are responsible for all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, they will issue a warrant for your arrest. If you get released to pretrial services, sir, you're going to need to stay in contact with that agency. You're not going to be allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you can't have any firearms. Do you understand all of those conditions of release on your felony case?
yes, I don't have any money. I'm homeless.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, and again, sir, the bond that I'm imposing on the felony matter is $1,500 cash or secured. And if you're not able to post that bond, you'll stay in custody. They will transport you for your SMART hearing on September 23rd, where you'll be able to meet with pretrial services. And we have social service agencies within our community that provide substance abuse treatment that'll also be in my courtroom at that time. So they can set up information for you. And we usually do review conditions of release at that time. All right.
Yeah.
We do need to deal with your misdemeanor cases as well, those 14 cases that you have out there. Those charges relate to theft, shoplifting, drug paraphernalia, prescription drug use, criminal trespass. And there are multiple charges on each one of these. Interfering with a judicial proceeding, and as I indicated, warrants in many of those matters. For those cases, sir, I am going to impose a bond of $1,500, and that's going to be cash or secured. That is going to be a separate bond than the one that I just imposed. Your court date in city court is going to be September 24th at 1:45 in the afternoon, and that's going to be a video review hearing. That will be in front of Judge Verena. So video review, much like you're doing here today, a city court judge will see you on that matter. So $1,500 cash or secured. I'm going to appoint the Grinkowicz Law Offices to represent you in your city court matters. You're not to go to any of the incident locations or have any contact with any of the victims, particularly in the theft, shoplifting, criminal trespass cases. You're not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or drugs. Do you understand your conditions of release on all of those misdemeanor matters, sir?
Yeah.
So you'll be seen on the 24th on all of those, and hopefully that will move you in the right direction on those cases. All right, that's all for tonight.
Okay.
Yes.
Urban?
Hi, ma'am. Tell me your full name.
Veronica Gregoria Borbon.
Ms. Bourbon, you are here this evening on charges related to aggravated assault with a dangerous instrument. Looks like a car was involved. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of this hearing this evening. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. I've also had an opportunity to review information that the state's attorney has provided with respect to their position on conditions of release. They are asking for a $20,000 bond. Ms. Goodman, would you like to be heard further?
Yes, Your Honor, the state respectfully asks for the higher bond due to the nature of the offense. The defendant does pose a risk to the community and the victim. The incident took place due to an argument where the defendant used her vehicle as an instrument to harm the victim, which it did cause the vehicle to pin the victim against her other vehicle. Per the interim complaint, Your Honor, the victim did report that she used her body to shield her child, who was also present in the scene. For that reason, Your Honor, the city is asking for a higher bond.
Ms. Kelly, would you like to be heard?
Your Honor, she's lived in Tucson for 54 years and has ties to the community. She has one prior felony conviction, but it's from 2010. I'd ask the court to set the bond at $5,000.
So Ms. Bourbon, I am going to impose a bond in the amount of $10,000. That's a cash or secured bond. If you're able to post that bond, then you will be released to the custody of pretrial services. You are not to have any contact with the victims in this matter and do not return to the incident location. You'll be required to participate in any monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial services. You are not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. Do not drive without a valid license. You are not allowed to have any firearms or weapons. Do you understand all of those conditions of release, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Your next court date is going to be September 24th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That is going to be a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, so it's really important that you stay in contact with your attorney. You are going to be responsible for any future court dates that are set, and if you fail to appear, they could issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences for failing to appear?
Yes.
All right, that's all for this evening.
Okay. I'll wait. Yeah, no. All right, and I'll have I'll go to work, but I want to see it somewhere. Yeah. Today's excellent.
All right, yeah.
Okay. Okay, I see. Okay. Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Hi, tell me your full name.
Joseph Down Bennett.
Mr. Bowman, you are here this evening on charges of criminal damage, destruction of an Arizona native plant, trespass in the second degree, and DUI. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in these felony matters. I am appointing the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing this evening. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. I've also had a chance to review the state's recommendation on this case. They are recommending a $7,000 bond. Ms. Goodman, did you want to be heard further?
Yes, Your Honor, the recommendation is based on the defendant's ongoing criminal activity. He's currently released on a separate felony offense. In addition, he does have a prior DUI conviction, also based on the nature of the offense and the damage that was reported for the criminal property and also to the native plant.
Ms. Kelly?
Your Honor, he has no prior felony convictions. I'd ask that the court set the bond at $4,000.
Mr. Bowman, I am going to impose a bond this evening of $5,000. That will be a cash or secured bond. If you do post that bond, you'll be released to the custody of pretrial services. You will be ordered to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. That will include alcohol monitoring. You are not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. You are not to drive without a valid license. You're not to have any contact with the victim in this case. Do not return to the incident location. If you do get released, you do need to contact pretrial services within the first working day following your release from custody. Do you understand all of those conditions of your release?
Yes.
Your next hearing is going to be September 24th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but it is important that you show up at all future court dates. You will be responsible for showing up at all future court dates. If you get released, staying in contact with your attorney so that you know the future court dates is of your benefit. If you do fail to appear, sir, they will issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right, that's all for tonight, Mr. Bowman.
Ibarra. And they just gonna give me a stuff.
Hi, sir. Tell me your full name.
I believe Ibarra.
Mr. Ibarra, you have several matters, 5 separate court matters that we're going to be talking about this evening. The first does involve a warrant out of Pima County Superior Court involving charges of burglary and multiple charges of domestic violence, including an assault and strangulation. You also have aggravated DUI, possession of narcotic drug paraphernalia, and tampering with physical evidence. You do have the right to remain silent on those charges. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of this hearing this evening. And again, we're just talking about the felony matters that you're here for right now. We also are going to be talking about a matter in Oro Valley Justice Court, another misdemeanor matter that you have, and then also city court matters that you have that are all outstanding. So those are all the things that we'll be discussing. But again, right now, sir, we're talking about the warrant involving primarily the DV charges and then the drug charges. So I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on all of these matters. I've also had an opportunity to review information that the state has provided me with respect to their recommendation. They are recommending the $35,000 bond that is on the warrant involving all of the DV cases or the DV charges. And that is my inclination this evening, is to impose that bond. They are also requesting a $15,000 bond on the drug charges in lieu of requesting a no bond at this time. Ms. Goodman, did you want to be heard further?
Oh, yes, Your Honor, I respectfully ask the court to take into consideration the facts as to the Superior Court warrant. The defendant forced his way into the victim's home unannounced, and he forced his way in. In addition, there are concerns as to additional threats, the nature of the offense, the lethality that it exposes the victim. The defendant has multiple failed to appear. There's no reasonable assurance the defendant will appear in court. He has multiple jurisdictions with active warrants. There's lack of community ties. Reports he's unemployed and homeless. A higher bond is appropriate for ongoing concerns for victim safety. In addition, for the new matter, Your Honor, I do apologize. Looks like the defendant has not been arrested for the warrant. So at this point, we're asking for the $15,000 bond. Again, due to ongoing criminal activity, the defendant committed a new offense while having other pending matters and multiple warrants. For those reasons, Your Honor, the higher bond is recommended.
Ms. Kelly?
Your Honor, he has no prior felony convictions. He's lived in Tucson for 27 years and has ties to the community. The victim doesn't object to his release. He hasn't been previously arrested on the warrant. I'd ask that the court set the bond on the warrant at $15,000 and the bond on the new drug charges at $5,000.
Sir, I am going to impose a $35,000 cash or secured bond. If you're able to post that bond, then you'll be released to pretrial services. If you are released, there are additional conditions of release. You're to participate in any monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial services. You're not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. Do not drive without a valid license. You cannot have any firearms or weapons. You are not to have any contact with the victim of the domestic violence in this case. That is Miss Salinas Mills. Absolutely no contact with her at all. Do not return to the incident location. If you remain in custody, you are also not allowed to have any contact with her. You may be given access to tablets, calls, visits. You are not to have any contact with her or have a third party try to initiate any contact with her. Do you understand all of those conditions, sir, as to the kidnapping and aggravated assault, domestic violence charges? There are other charges associated with that as well. Do you understand the
Yes, sir.
conditions? All right.
So will I be released?
Well, we're going to talk about that in a second. So on this case, there's a $35,000 cash or secure bond. So you have to be able to come up with the bond if you're going to be released to pretrial services. Your next hearing in that matter is going to be September 20th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That is your arraignment. That will be held in Pima County Superior Court on the 8th floor. If you are out of custody, you are responsible for appearing at that date and time. If you don't appear, they will issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you
And
understand?
the only way I'll be out of custody is if I post a bail.
Yes, but this is just one matter. We still have like 5 others that we have to talk about. Do you understand the conditions for this case and your next court date?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. As to your new charges with respect to the drug charges, I am going to impose a $5,000 cash or secured bond on that matter. I am going to impose it concurrently with the $35,000 that I just imposed. So that is going to just leave a $35,000 bond. And again, release to pretrial services. If you post those bonds, you're to participate in any monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial. You can't have any alcohol or drugs, drive without a valid license, have any contacts with the victims. Your next hearing in this case is going to be September 24th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That is going to be a preliminary hearing. That hearing may or may not occur, but you're going to be responsible for all future court dates. And if you fail to appear for court dates, they can issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand that, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
So I think, counsel, now that I say that out loud, these are in different postures. One has not been to arraignment yet, and the other one obviously is just an arrest. Do either of you have any issue with a concurrent bond under those facts?
I
No.
think it's best, Your Honor, if the court does set different different bonds.
All right. So what I will do on this matter, sir, is reduce the bond to $2,500, but it is going to be cash or secured. It's not going to be concurrent with that 35,000. So I've reduced the bond slightly in this matter, but because your cases are in different procedural postures, I can't do a concurrent bond. So it's going to be a consecutive bond that I'll have to impose. So it'll be $35,000 plus $2,500 that you'll need to post. And again, that hearing date for that case will be September 24th at 1:30. That's the preliminary hearing, but it is important that you stay in contact with your attorney. That date very well may change. So that is on the drug charges. Now we need to talk about your justice court matter. That is a shoplifting charge. On that case, sir, I am going to impose a bond of $100 that will be cash or secured. That is, again, separate from the other matters that you have pending. You are not to return to the incident location where the shoplifting occurred and you cannot have any contact with the victims there. Wherever the shoplifting occurred, those are the victims. I'm going to appoint John Illis to represent you in your justice court matter. Your next court date is going to be September 17th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. If you're still in custody, you'll be seen via video, much like you are this evening. If you are out of custody, you are responsible for appearing at that date and time for that case. And if you fail to appear, a warrant will issue for your arrest. Do you understand the conditions for that justice court case?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now we're going to talk about your Oro Valley case.
I was told that those charges were dropped a long time ago.
Well, I have a warrant for your arrest with a bond amount of $400 in that case. So that's also for a shoplifting and a warrant that has been out since 2023, it looks like. November of 2023. So on the Oro Valley case, that is going to be a $400 cash or secured bond. Again, if you post that bond, do not go back to where that shoplifting occurred. That's where the victims are, and you're not allowed to have any contact with anyone. I am going to appoint Richard Glenn to represent you in your Oro Valley cases. Your next court date in your Oro Valley matter is September 18th at 10:30 in the morning at Oro Valley City Court. And again, you are required to appear at that date and time in Oro Valley. And if you fail to appear, they can issue a warrant for your arrest. And that's if you're able to post the bond. Now we need to talk about your city court matters. It does look like you have 3 or 4 of those that are outstanding. Those involve charges of shoplifting, drug paraphernalia, and then another shoplifting charge. On that case, I am going to impose a bond in the amount of $250, cash or secured. I am going to appoint the Grinkowich Law Office to represent you in that matter. And I think I'm actually going to release you on the city court matters. So if you have to resolve all of these other cases and all of the other bonds, if you post bond on all of those other cases, in your city court matters, your next hearing is going to be October 16th at 9 a.m. That's going to be what's called a non-transport review hearing if you remain in custody. Because you're in custody on a bunch of other things, I am going to appoint the Grinkowich Law Office to represent you in your city court cases. So if you do stay in custody on everything else that you have, your attorney will be in contact with you to let you know what's going to happen. But if you get out that October 16th date at 9 a.m., you are required to appear in front of Judge Hale at that time. Don't go back to the incident locations wherever the shoplifting and theft occurred, and do not have any contact with the victims there. Do you understand your conditions of release on your city court cases?
Yes, Your Honor. Does that mean I'll be released?
Only if you post all of the bond on all of the other cases.
Oh,
So if you post the bond on all of the other matters and they're all consecutive to each other, so you have a bunch of bonds that you have to be able to post. They are cash or secured. If you post those, then you will be on release to pretrial services in your felony cases, and you have all the conditions that we've talked about here. The very nice attorney sitting next to you, Miss Kelly, I think has written down all of the dates for you. If you do get released from the Pima County Jail, they will also give you a bunch of paperwork. So for each one of the court dates you and I have discussed this evening, you'll get a separate piece of paper that will show the court location and the date and time that you are required to appear. But holding on to that card that Miss Kelly is going to give you is something that will be very important, because if you don't show up at all those court dates, you're going to get more warrants and find yourself back in jail. Do you understand all of that?
yes, Your Honor.
That's all for tonight. What did I do out of custody? I don't care what you call it. Yeah, you're not changing the date. You're changing the nature of the hearing. Yes, absolutely. No problem. Hi, sir. Tell me your full name.
Nathan Eugene King.
Mr. King, you are here this evening on charges related to dangerous drug possession, narcotic drug possession, paraphernalia, and second-degree escape. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney. I'm going to appoint the legal defender's office to represent you, and you do have counsel seated with you for purposes of this hearing. She's not going to be your attorney, but she is representing you tonight for purposes of this hearing. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. And so regardless of what we do here on these new charges this evening, you do have a felony probation warrant hold. So you are going to remain in custody until that gets resolved. You also have a warrant out of Pima County Superior Court for failing to appear at a sentencing. So those two matters are going to keep you in custody until those are resolved. My inclination, counsel, is to impose a bond of $5,500 in this matter. Do either of you want to be heard further?
Nothing further from the state, Your Honor. Thank you.
No objection to $5,500 bond.
So, Mr. King, on your new charges, I am going to impose a bond in the amount of $5,500. That will be cash or secured. If you get your felony matters resolved and you get released, then you'll be released to the custody of pretrial services. Your conditions of release involve not having any contact with any victims, don't possess any firearms or weapons, you can't have any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you have to participate in any monitoring or treatment pretrial services requires. Do you understand all of those conditions of release, Mr. King?
Yes.
Your next hearing is going to be September 24th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, so it's important that you stay in contact with your attorney. You are responsible for all future court dates, and if you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences for failing to appear, Mr. King? All right, that's all for tonight.
Lovato? Melissa Lovato?
Hi, ma'am. Tell me your full name.
Melissa Marie Lovato.
Ms. Lovato, you are here this evening on felony charges relating to unlawful possession of a dangerous drug and drug paraphernalia. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything that you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of this hearing. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services in this matter. I also note that you have multiple, looks like 5 or 6 city court cases that we're going to talk about after we're done talking about your felony charges as well. I've also had an opportunity to review information provided by the state's attorney with respect to conditions of release. They are recommending that you be released to pretrial services, and that is the court's inclination, is to release you this evening to the custody of pretrial. Ms. Lovato, you are eligible. Ms. Lovato,
Yeah.
you're eligible perhaps to participate in a program. It's a substance abuse treatment program through Pima County Superior Court. If the county attorney's office finds that you are eligible to participate and you agree to do either inpatient or outpatient treatment related to substance abuse, if you complete the program successfully, the state is going to not go forward with the felony drug charges against you. Is that a program that you're interested in participating in?
Yes.
Okay.
And Your Honor, if I may address the court, looks like there was an amended interim which it included promoting prison contraband, which would disqualify her for the smoke.
Thank you, Ms. Goodman. Yep, I did see that after. Okay. So you're not going to be eligible for that SMART program. So we can take that particular provision off. I'm still going to release you to pretrial services and you can stay in contact with that agency. Pretrial services can help connect you with services for substance abuse. So ma'am, you'll be released later tonight on these felony charges. You do need to stay in contact with pretrial services. Don't possess or consume any alcohol or drugs, and you can't have any firearms while this case is going on. Your next court date is going to be September 24th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's a preliminary, oh, sorry. Let me give you the right date. October 4th is going to be your court date at 1:30. That is a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, so it's important that you stay in contact with your attorney so that you know when court dates are. If you fail to appear at any future court dates, they could issue a warrant for your arrest. All right, Ms. Lovato, do you understand all of your conditions for your felony case?
Please so.
Okay, you'll be released, and the important part is staying in contact with your attorney and pretrial services.
Are we going home tonight?
You're going to get released later tonight, ma'am, but now we need to talk about your city court cases that are also pending. You have multiple city court cases involving drug paraphernalia and criminal trespass. Looks like there was a warrant that was issued for you in at least a couple of those matters. I am going to release you on your city court matters if you promise me that when I give you a court date, you're going to show up and get these taken care of. Will you do that?
Yes,
Okay.
I will. I'll show up. I thought that I had taken care of all of those.
Okay. You've got to make sure you show up. If you don't show up, they're just going to continue to issue warrants and you're going to find yourself back in jail. Okay. So your
right.
next court date is going to be October 10th at 9:00 in the morning. And that is going to be in front of Judge Maldonado at Tucson City Court. 9
Is
o'clock.
there, I'm sorry, is there such thing as like homeless court or anything like that?
They do have resources. So you're going to be released to pretrial services and they should be able to assist you with that on the felony case. I do know that they have other treatment courts at city court. So if you show up on October 10th and let them know what services you need. The other thing, Ms. Lovato, is you'll be released later tonight. And unfortunately, the facility is not open, but near the jail, there is a trailer and it is called the Transition Center. You may notice it when you leave tonight. Like I said, unfortunately, they're not going to be open, but they also have a number of services. So if you are in a position of being able to find your way back to the Transition Center on Monday morning, they will be able to assist you with services that you may need. They can help with housing, substance abuse, mental health treatment. They have a variety of community partners that they may be able to connect you with to help you with those services.
Okay.
Okay. So when you get released later tonight, you're going to get copies of your paperwork. Miss Kelly, the woman seated next to you, wrote those down for you. So she's going to give you a card, but you also, when you get released, will get copies of your paperwork that'll have all your court dates. All right, Miss Lovato?
All right.
That's all for tonight.
This way.
Miranda?
Hi, sir. Tell me your full name.
Christopher Miranda.
Mr. Miranda, you are here tonight on charges of involving misconduct with weapons, possession of a narcotic drug, possession of a dangerous drug, and drug paraphernalia. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I'm appointing the public defender's office to represent you, and you do have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing tonight. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. I've also had the opportunity to review the state's recommendation as to your conditions of release. I will tell you, sir, it does look like you have a probation hold. Looks like this case may have resulted in a violation of your probation. There could be other things going on, but regardless of what we do here tonight, you're going to be held until you can be seen on your probation matter. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So does the state want to be heard as to conditions?
Yes, Your Honor, the state is asking for the $7,500 bond with pretrial services due to the nature of the offense. The defendant had multiple illegal drugs involving a loaded gun. He's been on warrant status for his probation violations since 2023. In addition, he has multiple fails to appear.
Ms. Kelly, did you want to be heard?
Yes, Your Honor, he's a lifelong resident of Tucson and has ties to the community. I'd ask that the court set the bond at $3,000.
Mr. Miranda, I am going to impose a $5,500 cash or secured bond on this matter. If you are able to post that bond, then you would be released to pretrial services. If you do post the bond and you are released to pretrial, you'll be ordered to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You're not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you can't have any firearms. Your next hearing in this case is going to be September 24th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That is a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, so it is important that you stay in contact with your attorneys. It is your responsibility to appear for all future court dates, and if you fail to appear, a warrant can be issued for your arrest. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. As to your city court matters, because you're being held on the felony matters, I am going to appoint Janet Altschuler to represent you in your city court matters. I will release you on the city court matters, but again, you're going to have your felony matters that you need to resolve. So if you are still in custody, Ms. Altschuler will be in contact with you. Your next hearing on the city court cases is going to be October 16th at 9 o'clock in the morning. That's going to be what's called a non-transport review hearing. So if you are still in custody, your attorney will talk with you about whether or not you'll be brought to court or be seen via video on that date. But if you get released and have these other matters resolved and you post bond, it's your responsibility to show up on October 16th at 9 in front of Judge Hale at Tucson City Court. If you fail to appear, City Court will issue another warrant for your arrest. Do you understand, Mr. Miranda?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, that's all for tonight.
Boss?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Hi, sir. Tell me your full name.
Amar Shabazz Mohammed.
Mr. Shahbaz Mohammed, you are here on a couple of different matters this evening. You do have a felony case. That one involves burglary in the 3rd degree. You also have a justice court matter that we're going to talk about. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of this hearing. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services in this matter. I've also had a chance to review the state's recommendation. They are asking that you be released to pretrial services. That is the court's inclination, is to release you this evening to pretrial services if you promise to appear at future court dates. Does either counsel wish to be heard further?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
No.
So, sir, you are going to be released later today to the custody of pretrial services. You're going to be ordered to participate in any monitoring or treatment that they direct. You cannot possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you can't have any firearms or weapons. Do not return to the incident location or have any contact with the victims that are at that location. Do you understand all of your conditions of release?
Yes, ma'am.
Your next court date is going to be October 4th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you will be responsible for showing up at all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant could be issued for your arrest. It's really important you stay in contact with your attorney. Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's talk about your justice court matter. On that one, it is also a shoplifting case. I am going to release you on your own promise to appear on that matter. Do not go back to the incident location or have any contact with the victims there. Your next court hearing in justice court is October 15th at 8:30 in the morning. That's going to be in front of Judge Pesquera at Pima County Justice Court. You do need to appear at that date and time as well. If you fail to appear, they can issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand those conditions?
Yes, ma'am.
And that you have 2 separate court dates. Do you understand that as well?
Yes.
Okay, that's all for tonight.
Boss. Here goes. Can you get that T9? Oh. He's being released, sir.
Yes, you have released.
Sit down.
Hi, ma'am. Tell me your full name.
Hi, Bella Williford.
Ms. Williford, you are here this evening on a couple of different matters. One is a warrant out of Pinal County Superior Court. The other is a matter involving Ajo Justice Court. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. There is a $2,500 bond for your Pinal County warrant. I am going to impose that bond at this time. It's cash or secured. So if you can post that bond, you will be released. If you remain in custody, we're going to set a review hearing date here in Pima County, just in case you're still in custody. The jail will notify Pinal County that you have been served with this warrant, and they should be coming to pick you up if you don't post your bond. But we want to make sure that we're keeping track of you here in Pima County. So you're going to have a review hearing here if you're still here on September 30th at 9 a.m. You'll have an attorney appointed for you in Pinal County Superior Court. If you do post that bond, then you need to make sure you call Pinal County Superior Court so that you can get a hearing date for the warrant. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Now let's talk about your Ajo matter. That is a shoplifting and failure to provide your true name. I am going to release you on your promise to appear on that matter. You are not to return to the incident location where the shoplifting occurred or have any contact with the people there. They are the victims. Your next hearing at Ajo Justice Court is going to be October 2nd at 9 a.m. You do need to appear at that date and time or they can issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand that, Mrs. Williford?
Yes.
All right, that's all for this evening.
Here's your dates.
Yeah, super. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Jail. Thank you, Ms. Kelly, Ms. Goodman. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you as well.
Well.